You are currently outsourcing some of the most important decisions and arguably the most valuable years of your life to a delivery truck that is, well, never going to arrive.
We really do. We spend an inordinate amount of time treating our future like a pending package.
Right.
We operate under this unconscious assumption that if we just wait patiently enough, the ideal circumstances for our goals or our relationships and our happiness will eventually just be dropped off right on our doorstep.
Welcome to today's deep dive.
Wow.
And usually, when we try to figure out why we operate this way, we're mining through hundreds of pages of research,
Oh, yeah, hauling out tons of raw dirt.
Exactly. We sift through data for hours just to extract a few brilliant nuggets of insight. But today is completely different.
It really is.
We aren't sifting through massive volumes of dirt. We are staring at a single, flawlessly cut, incredibly dense diamond.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
We have a source text today that consists of exactly 14 words. Okay, let's unpack this. How do we extract a whole new way of operating from just 14 words?
Well, it is a profound excerpt from a work titled The Architecture of the Perfect Moment.
Okay.
And the entire text we are analyzing is just 2 sentences long. It literally just reads, "Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Take the moment and make it perfect."
See, when I first read those 14 words, my brain immediately tried to reject them.
I get that. It sounds deceptively simple, right?
Yeah, it masquerades as this generic motivational quote you might see on a poster in a corporate break room, like next to a picture of a mountain.
Right.
But the longer I sat with it, the more I realized it was systematically dismantling the way I view the passage of time.
To understand the massive psychological shift those 2 sentences demand, we actually have to look closely at why human beings are so prone to waiting in the first place.
Wait, so there's a biological reason we do this?
Oh, absolutely. There is a deep evolutionary and neurobiological basis for this behavior. Our brains are hardwired for resource conservation.
Okay, so conserving energy.
Right. 10,000 years ago, if environmental conditions weren't absolutely optimal.
Like if a storm was coming.
Exactly. If a storm was coming or you were slightly injured, expending massive amounts of physical energy was a literal lethal risk.
Wow.
You survived by waiting for the right moment to hunt or migrate.
So we have this ancient biological software running in the background, constantly telling us that waiting is a vital survival mechanism.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But in the modern world, that software glitches constantly.
Because we aren't waiting out a literal blizzard anymore.
No, we're not. We're waiting for, the perfect time to ask for promotion.
Or the ideal moment to start a difficult project.
Or the right mood to have a really hard conversation with a partner.
Right. And the biological instinct to avoid risk and conserve energy, it sort of disguises itself as prudent preparation.
Yes. We convince ourselves we're being strategic.
We tell ourselves, I'm not avoiding writing my novel. I'm just waiting until I have a dedicated, perfectly quiet home office setup.
Or I'm not procrastinating on my career change. I'm just waiting for the fiscal quarter to end.
Right.
The danger is that waiting provides a very insidious dopamine hit.
Oh, wow. Because it feels productive.
Exactly. It feels like you are doing something constructive when in reality you are completely paralyzed.
And that paralysis brings us right to the framework of this 14-word text. Before we even look at the 2 rules the author gives us, we have to look at the title of the work itself.
The Architecture of the Perfect Moment.
Yeah, the word architecture is doing an immense amount of conceptual heavy lifting here.
It really is. Architecture implies something highly intentional. It requires blueprints.
Right. Scaffolding, load-bearing calculations.
And sustained labor. It is the exact opposite of an accidental occurrence or a stroke of luck.
Or a natural phenomenon.
Right. It establishes the core premise of this entire philosophy. A perfect moment is not a weather event.
So what does this all mean for us? It isn't a sunny day that just happens to roll in and wash over you while you're passively standing outside.
No, it's a structure that must be designed and built from the ground up. We are the builders, not tourists on the sidewalk.
But wait, hold on. If perfection is strictly an architecture, doesn't building something require raw materials?
Oh, yes.
You cannot build a structurally sound, beautiful skyscraper out of mud and garbage. What if someone's present reality is objectively terrible?
That's a really common fear.
How do you architect something perfect out of a genuinely toxic workplace or a broken relationship or an empty bank account? Can we really build a perfect moment out of nothing?
See, this gets to the very heart of the cognitive trap we fall into. You are assuming the materials have to be flawless before the building can even begin.
Oh, interesting.
Think about actual physical construction. A foundation is never laid in pristine laboratory conditions.
True, it's usually a mess.
It involves digging a massive, ugly hole in the dirt. It involves dealing with unpredictable groundwater, pouring concrete in the mud.
Managing chaotic supply chain.
Exactly. The structural integrity, the perfection of the final building relies entirely on how effectively the architect forces order onto that chaotic, dirty environment.
Okay, so the focus shifts entirely from the quality of the starting materials to the executive function of the builder.
You've got it.
But, I mean, that introduces a massive problem with liability.
How so?
Well, if I'm just sitting on the passenger platform waiting for the perfect moment express to pull into the station and it never arrives, I'm just a victim of bad public transit.
Right. You can just blame the universe.
Exactly. It's not my fault my life didn't start.
Yeah.
But if I declare myself the architect and the building collapses, my name is the only one on the blueprint.
To claim the role of the architect is to accept absolute liability for the outcome. And that is terrifying for most people.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense.
Learned helplessness is incredibly comfortable. We use the absence of perfect conditions as a psychological shield to protect us from the vulnerability of trying and failing.
Wow. And the text recognizes this fear, which is why the very first directive it gives is so absolute. Stop waiting for the perfect moment.
Right.
But let me challenge that absolute directive for a second. What about the concept of good timing?
Okay, let's hear it.
Think about a sport like surfing. A surfer doesn't just paddle out and aggressively start swimming on a totally flat, waveless ocean.
No, of course not.
They sit on their board and they wait for the right swell to come in. That kind of waiting isn't passive procrastination. It's a fundamental requirement of engaging with their environment.
That's a great analogy, but we need to look incredibly closely at the distinction that the text is making and apply it strictly to those mechanics of surfing.
Okay.
The text does not say, don't wait for a good moment. It says, stop waiting for the perfect moment.
Okay, the perfect one.
Right. An experienced surfer understands that the perfect wave is an absolute myth. Every single wave in the ocean has wind chop, unpredictable breaks, shifting tides.
Interference from other surfers.
Exactly. If a surfer refused to paddle out until a mathematically flawless glassy wave appeared with zero wind interference.
They would literally spend their entire life sitting dry on the beach.
Yes. They practice an active form of observation, not passive waiting. They read the ocean, they identify a wave with potential, a deeply flawed, chaotic, messy wave, and then they apply their balance, their muscle memory, and their skill to it.
So the ride becomes great because of the technique they apply to the chaos, not because the water was perfectly formed for them.
Precisely. The illusion of the perfect moment causes paralysis. Accepting the flawed moment invites action.
Okay, so if waiting for the flawless wave or the fully formed package on the doorstep is a trap that strips us of our agency, what's the alternative? How do we actually engage with our reality?
That moves us to the source's final sentence, which provides the active solution.
Take the moment, make it perfect.
Yes. Two highly aggressive, deeply active verbs, take and make. This represents the ultimate shift from a passive receiver to an active creator.
Let's dissect those. What are the psychological mechanics required to execute the first verb, take?
Well, taking requires overcoming intense cognitive dissonance. You have to actively mourn the fantasy of the flawless moment you envisioned in your head.
Oh, that's tough.
It is, and force yourself to accept the messy, awkward, poorly timed reality sitting in front of you. You aren't given the moment, you have to claim it.
You aren't being offered the moment on a silver platter.
Exactly. Taking the moment means looking at the metaphorical mud and garbage we discussed earlier and saying, all right, this is what I have. I am no longer looking over the fence for better materials.
I am claiming ownership of this specific, deeply flawed block of time.
Right. It's stepping completely out of the passenger mindset and walking into the conductor's booth.
But taking it is only half the equation, right? You then have to move to the second verb. You have to make it perfect.
And this is where the executive function really comes into play. Make demands intensive labor. It requires applying that architecture from the title.
So you're forcing the current reality into a state of structure.
Through constraint, focus, and deliberate effort. You mold, design, and force it into perfection through your own intention. You're taking raw, unorganized time and building an outcome.
Here's where it gets really interesting. This reminds me of one of the most common, mundane traps we all fall into. which perfectly illustrates this mechanism.
Oh, what's the trap?
Think about cooking. Imagine you're sitting on your couch on a Tuesday night. You're hungry, and you spend 45 solid minutes endlessly scrolling a food delivery app.
Oh, we've all been there.
Right. You're swiping past dozens of restaurants looking for the absolute perfect meal to satisfy some vague craving. You're paralyzed by choice, waiting for the ideal option to present itself.
Meanwhile, you have a refrigerator located 20 feet away from you.
Exactly. You have perfectly decent, albeit totally random, ingredients rotting in your own fridge, but you're outsourcing your satisfaction to an external delivery mechanism.
You're wasting time waiting for someone else to construct a meal and bring it to you.
Yes. And to transition from passive waiting to architectural making happens the second you close the app and stand up.
I love this analogy.
You walk to the fridge, and you assess your raw materials. You find half an onion, some leftover rice, a slightly questionable carrot, and an egg.
The mud and the garbage.
Exactly. You take those deeply flawed, unimpressive ingredients. You don't complain that you don't have fresh truffles. Then you turn on the stove. You apply heat, technique, and a few spices.
You apply your architecture.
And you make a meal out of them yourself.
Yeah.
And you know what? The fried rice you construct is perfect.
Not because the ingredients were inherently flawless or Michelin star quality, but because you engineered an outcome.
Right. You exerted your own agency to solve your hunger in the present moment, rather than waiting for an external perfect solution to arrive.
Which goes to show when the text says make it perfect, it clearly does not mean make it conform to an impossible, flawless ideal.
So what does perfection mean in this context?
Perfection, in this specific philosophical context, means fully realized through your own agency. A perfect moment is simply a moment where you are entirely present, entirely active, and brought your full, undivided intention to bear on whatever messy reality was situated in front of you.
Okay, let's scale that up from a plate of fried rice to something high stakes. Think about how this applies to having a difficult, emotionally charged conversation with a partner or a close friend.
Oh, that's a great example.
You know there's a serious issue that needs to be addressed, but you keep putting it off because you want a moment where neither of you is tired from work
Where the mood is naturally calm.
and where there are zero outside distractions.
You are waiting for the emotional weather to clear up. You're waiting for the ideal conversational climate to just spontaneously manifest.
But that pristine Tuesday evening never arrives. People are always tired. There are always distractions.
Always.
So the unspoken tension just compounds and rots, much like the unused food in the fridge. But the take and make approach forces a completely different strategy, doesn't it?
It does. You seize a random, slightly stressful Wednesday evening. You take that deeply imperfect block of time, fully acknowledging that you are both a bit exhausted.
And then you make it perfect by applying conversational scaffolding.
Right. You set clear boundaries for the discussion, you speak with absolute honesty, you employ active empathy, and you refuse to let the conversation derail into an argument.
So the moment isn't perfect because it was easy or comfortable. It was likely highly uncomfortable.
It is perfect because you successfully built a bridge of communication right there in the middle of an emotional storm. You are describing the profound transition from a victim of circumstance to a master of circumstance.
Wow.
When you deeply internalize the belief that moments are constructed rather than found, you become incredibly resilient. You stop fearing bad timing.
Because bad timing just becomes a different set of design constraints for the architect.
Precisely. You begin to trust your own ability to architect a meaningful outcome regardless of the starting conditions.
So like if you get laid off from a job, you don't wait for the perfect economic climate to start looking for a new path.
Right. You take the terrifying reality of the present moment and you begin building a new skill set with whatever limited resources you have available.
It completely reorients your relationship with the passage of time. Time is no longer a waiting room where you sit around rooting old magazines until your number is called.
It's a workshop.
A workshop. I like that.
And returning to the psychology of this, stepping into the workshop breaks the dopamine loop of passive procrastination.
Because the satisfaction no longer comes from fantasizing about a flawless future.
Exactly. The satisfaction comes from the tangible friction of doing the work today.
We have taken 14 incredibly dense words and unpacked the massive paradigm shift they demand from us.
We really went from the biological, evolutionary trap of passive waiting to the intense cognitive demand of architectural creation.
Yeah, we dismantled the myth of the externally perfect moment, the train that never arrives,
Yeah.
the mathematically flawless wave, and the food delivery app of our lives.
The practical application of this philosophy is something you can test immediately, too.
Right, the very next time you catch yourself hesitating.
When you feel that familiar, seductive comfort of waiting settling into your mind because the timing just isn't, right yet.
When you tell yourself you're waiting for things to calm down at work before you focus on your health.
Or you're waiting until you feel more ready before you start that creative project.
Remind yourself in that exact second that you are actively surrendering your agency to an illusion.
You are choosing to be a passive tourist in your own life, wandering around hoping to stumble upon a beautiful structure when you possess the capacity and the raw materials to be the builder.
Stop scrolling through the options. Open the fridge. The structure of your life is waiting to be built.
It doesn't require pristine conditions, but it does demand your sweat, your intention, and an absolute willingness to get your hands dirty with the mud and the garbage of the present moment.
You have the diamond in your hand. The transition from waiting to building is the single most defining choice you can make about your own timeline.
It absolutely is.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive into the architecture of our time, we want to leave you with a final, lingering question to mull over on your own today. It's a question that builds directly on everything we've uncovered.
If you truly accept that you are the architect and you decide to stop waiting and you take this exact, flawed, messy moment right now,
What is the very first blueprint you need to draw?